The air in the Senate chamber was electric, but no one knew why. Cameras lined the back walls, reporters whispered like restless birds, and aides shuffled papers nervously. It was supposed to be just another press briefing until Senator John Kennedy stepped up to the podium. His face was pale but steady, his voice carrying a gravity that seemed to press against the walls themselves. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, pausing long enough that even the sound of pen scratching ceased, "what I'm about to share with you will change everything we know about our country, about ourselves, and about the future we thought we were heading toward." Gasps rippled through the room. Kennedy wasn't a man known for exaggeration. He was blunt, often brutally so, a politician who thrived on sharp wit and unvarnished truth. So when his tone quivered with both fear and resolve, people leaned in. Something monumental was coming. For weeks, rumors had been swirling. Strange documents leaked, shadowy meetings behind closed doors, whispers about decisions too powerful to be made in secrecy. But nothing prepared anyone for what Kennedy was about to reveal. "I have in my hands," he continued, raising a sealed folder, "evidence of a project that has been kept hidden from the American people for over 2 decades, a project so vast, so dangerous, that if it continues unchecked, it could unravel the very foundation of our democracy." The room fell silent. Every camera zoomed in. Every eye locked on him. He spoke of an unholy alliance between corporate power and government secrecy, where billions of dollars had been funneled into technologies not meant for progress, but for control. Surveillance systems designed not to protect, but to manipulate. Programs capable of predicting and even influencing a human behavior. Reporters shouted questions, but Kennedy raised a hand. His voice sharpened. "This is not science fiction. This is happening now. And it's been hidden from your families, your children, while decisions about freedom itself were being made in secret boardrooms and secure bunkers." A tremor went through the crowd. Even hardened journalists, the kind who thought they had heard everything, were left breathless. But the story wasn't just about conspiracy. It was about courage. Kennedy described how a whistleblower, a young woman named Claire Whitman, had risked her life to bring these documents to light. She had been a data analyst inside one of the corporations involved. For months she had wrestled with her conscience, knowing the price of speaking up. Her own father had warned her, "Truth is heavy, Claire. Once you carry it, it never sets you down." She carried it anyway. She brought the evidence to Kennedy's office in the dead of night, shaking with fear, begging him to protect not only her but the future of every citizen. That night, Kennedy confessed, he barely slept. He thought about his own grandchildren. He thought about the oath he had taken, the one politicians so often repeated like a hollow ritual. But here, at last, was the moment where those words to protect and defend meant something. So he chose to risk everything. The announcement wasn't without cost. Powerful interests would come after him. Colleagues whispered betrayal. Friends urged him to stay silent. But Kennedy's voice only grew stronger. "I will not be complicit," he declared, slamming his hand against the podium. "You elected me to speak for you, and I refuse to let your future be sold off in silence." The chamber erupted, some with applause, others with angry shouts. But beyond those walls, something extraordinary happened. Ordinary Americans began to stir. Students started sharing the live stream. Workers on lunch breaks tuned in. Families gathered around their televisions, their phones, their laptops. The truth was out, and it spread like wildfire. Claire herself sat in a safe house, tears streaming down her face. She had thought her sacrifice might vanish in bureaucracy. Instead, her truth was echoing across the nation. For the first time in months, she felt the crushing weight on her chest begin to lift. Kennedy ended his speech with words that would be replayed for generations. "Every era faces a test of courage. Ours is here. We can remain silent and allow shadows to rule our lives, or we can step into the light and reclaim what it means to be free. I have made my choice. Now I ask you, and what will yours be?" The final syllables seemed to hang in the air like a challenge. Reporters rushed out, people flooded social media, and by nightfall, protests had already begun outside corporate headquarters and government buildings. The struggle that followed was fierce illegal battles, smear campaigns, threats to careers and lives. But the spark had been lit, and once lit, fire spreads. Communities that had long felt powerless suddenly found their voices. A movement grew on, not of politicians, but of ordinary citizens determined to demand transparency, fairness, and dignity. Months later, when the first reforms were passed and the secret programs dismantled, Kennedy stood quietly on the Senate steps, watching as families waved signs of gratitude. He didn't smile, not exactly because he knew the work was far from over, but his eyes held the quiet resolve of a man who had kept faith with his people. And Claire? She walked freely down a busy street, no longer hiding, knowing her courage had helped turn the tide. The story of that day became more than a headline. It became a reminder that truth, no matter how heavy, always finds a way to rise, and that real change, the kind that shakes the earth, begins not with power or wealth but with the courage to speak when silence would be easier. Because in the end, Kennedy's announcement was not just about corruption or secrecy. It was about hope, a hope that once the truth is revealed, people will always rise to defend it. And that, more than anything else, truly changed everything.